Hello, fans of Central Coast Mariners, and welcome back to the Coast Watch Football Podcast. My name is Lockie, and we are here to talk all things Mariners. And thanks so much, everyone, for checking out last week's episode, the first podcast back for the new season. And we did an off-season recap going over the biggest stories from the week, and it was just thanks so much for all the support and the kind words. Now that the podcast is back and in video form on the YouTube channel, Coast Watch Football YouTube channel, there's going to be plenty of activity there over the coming season. And this episode is going to be exciting because we're going to be reliving some of the best memories, some of the best moments from last season, the 2021 A-League season, where the Mariners were certainly overachievers. I mean, again, it was a season where people had predicted us to finish bottom of the ladder, and it was anything but that. It was a fantastic season, and to think that we finished, in third place, made it all the way to the finals. Didn't quite finish the way we wanted to, but incredible achievement nonetheless. So we're going to be going over some of the best moments, the top five. I've nailed it down to five, and would love to hear your guys' favorite moments from the past season. So make sure you jump to the comment section, whether you're watching here on YouTube or anywhere on the social platforms. And of course, Coast Watch Football, now available on all the different social media platforms. In the description of this podcast, you can go ahead and jump on Twitter, TikTok. We're on TikTok now, which is cool, and Facebook, Instagram, just about everywhere. And of course, the podcast available on all the podcast platforms. But we're going to get started straight into the news from the past week involving the Mariners, and some exciting news. A new kit supplier has been announced. It's Paladin Sports, and an Australian company. They started on the Northern Beaches, and this is exciting because they released like a little snippet of some of the stuff, like the little bit of like a teaser post, and it was interesting. There's like a photo of Ollie Bouman in like a navy blue kit. And like when I don't think it's the official kit, but when I saw it, I was like, that looks like it could be an official kit, but I think it's just a training jersey. I mean, they went on to say the actual official kit will be released in the coming weeks. So we'll keep an eye out for that. But exciting stuff. It's always interesting to see what a new kit supplier does in terms of whether they do something bold. Throwback to the palm tree jersey. So we'll wait and see. But it ends a 5-year association with Umbro, who are a company who created some really nice Mariners kits over the years. The one I was wearing I was wearing it in last week's podcast. It was yellow, but it was like a really sort of, it wasn't like fluoro, but it was like one of the brightest sort of shades of yellow we've ever had. And I had like the navy strips on like the sides. Dope kit. That was probably my favorite Mariners kit of all time, and I love wearing it to a lot of the games. But a lot of really good Umbro kits. So that'll actually be another podcast we could probably do coming up, or maybe video talking about some of the best Mariners kits of all time. But make sure you keep an eye out on the Mariners socials, and I'll make sure I share it around on the Coast Watch Football socials as soon as the official kit comes out and becomes announced. And I've been hearing some talk that it's going to be like predominantly navy. I don't know. So we'll have to wait and see. And, we have had that in the past. You think a couple of years ago, had sort of the stripes, and which was like predominantly navy all over, just sort of like the yellow stripes. So we'll see. Dan Bouman. We're going to talk about Dan Bouman next. Now, this is an interesting one because it's as I mentioned on the socials, sort of talking about the squad for the upcoming season. Dan Bouman not re-signed. He was just signed on a 1-year deal, and haven't heard anything about a re-signing. As far as I know, he hasn't been training with the squad. But shout out to Cooper, follower of Coast Watch Football, who brought this to my attention. That it was Zion's sports management on Instagram shared this post. Who are apparently, they look after a lot of the sort of the agency that looks after a lot of Mariners players and a lot of A-League players. Put up a post. This was just last Sunday night, just a couple of days ago from the release of this podcast. Basically, it was a photo of Dan Bouman, and in the description was like, it said something along the lines of, looking forward to the new season, tagging Dan Bouman, tagging the Mariners. And it was just post, and it's like it's their official Instagram page. So massive hinting that potentially we will see Dan Bouman resigning. So thanks, Cooper, for bringing that to my attention on the Zion Sports Management Instagram page. So this is good because I was hoping someone like him would re-sign, and I know a lot of fans, both him and Jaden Casella, who was sort of, I guess, were sort of playing as our backup wingers predominantly last season. Two players who I felt like had way much more to offer, and they're both young, they're both exciting, they're both fast. Unfortunately, Bouman didn't get a goal last year, which is kind of crazy, right? To think that he was involved so much, but Dan Bouman never got on the score sheet. Of course, provided some great assists. Of course, that assist for Alu Kual's second goal in that Western United game early on in the season, that beautiful sort of like early cross. So Dan Bouman, interesting one. A little bit of a exclusive news scoop, sort of. But we'll keep an eye out for that, of course, as well. But hopefully he'll be rejoining the side. And as well, there's been a 5-year agreement between the PFA and the APL to create a world-class workplace for the A-League and W League. So I'll rattle off a couple of things that they mentioned in sort of in the news story that broke a few days ago. So a 61% increase of the W League salary cap floor over the next 5 years. And of course, as we announced on the podcast, chatted about in the podcast last week, the Mariners will be joining the W League in the coming years. Increase in the A-League salary cap, with the salary cap aiming to reach $2.6 million in the next 3 years. Better quality training facilities, travel accommodation, all this sort of stuff is I think is really, really good for the competition. The introduction of 2 designated players, allowing clubs to invest between $300,000 and $600,000 in players whose salaries will be excluded from the A-League salary cap, while maintaining other exemptions such as marquee players, and as well an increase in A-League and W League minimum wages. So, I mean, overall sounds like good news, and it's ultimately it sounds like it's going to be a good thing for the competition, especially in a time where the competition and a lot of clubs have been struggling financially, and this sort of provides a bit of security. And, it wasn't that long ago where, of course, we think back to, what was it, like 6 months ago now or something like that, where there was the talk of, Mariners moving to North Sydney again, and the whole Manchester United debacle where, well, not really debacle, but it was more of just a rumor than anything actually, because it obviously never came to fruition. But, as Mariners fans, as being a small club, there's always a little bit of sort of nervousness around that sort of thing, and financial situations, and the owner situation and all that sort of thing. So overall, from an A-League point of view, this sounds like good news, and great to see some sort of, to create, as they say, that world-class workplace. We want to be treating our league like it is. It is. It's a professional league, and we want to treat it as such as well. So, big news there for the A-League as well. All fans of all clubs considered. So, those are the biggest news stories from the past week in terms of the Mariners, and we'll be keeping an eye, of course, on the FFA Cup, which is starting. It's actually tonight, from the release of this podcast on Tuesday. Brisbane Roar are kicking off the FFA Cup against Peninsula Power, and we'll have to wait and see what happens in terms of the Mariners and the FFA Cup. A lot of the news, well, basically everyone else, and in the FFA Cup, and as well with the A-League, some talk of the A-League sort of getting pushed back in terms of kickoff as well. Obviously, nothing concrete yet, but I don't think anyone would be surprised to see both the FFA Cup and the FFA Cup has already been pushed back, but the A-League to be pushed back too. We'll certainly keep an eye out for that one as well. But let's jump straight into our main topic of discussion for today, which is some of the biggest moments, the best moments from the past season. And we're taking a trip down memory lane. So there was so much positivity around last season with the Mariners on and off the field. Fans were coming back, and the performances on the field were, just as good as we've ever seen, here on the Central Coast. And again, we've spoken a bit about Alan Stajic and his impact as well, and how he managed to get the best out of so many of these players and the team playing cohesively and playing with, the biggest thing for me is the mentality of the side. Last year, the mentality to, keep fighting, keep pushing. We were winning games. where in the last 4 or 5 years, we were just losing. We would just fade away in that second half. And we were coming back, and we were fighting, and we were winning. And, I'm going to be talking about some of those games specifically in my top 5 moments. So let's jump into it right now. We're going to talk about number 5. So talking about number 5 for me, at number 5, is the 2-0 away win. Early on in the season, it was round 4 away to the champions, Sydney FC. And this for me was a sign of intent for the Mariners. Round 4, we obviously won the F3 Derby in the opening week. Won away to MacArthur, which was a great game. Had a stumbling block there when we lost. Was it Wellington or no, it was Wanderers. It was Wanderers. We lost to Wanderers in round three. Round three we lost, but then round four to go to Sydney FC, which is a game that is a difficult test for anyone. And the key thing with that performance was our incredible defensive solidarity, and it was a sign that especially the centre back pairing, which hadn't necessarily. Heading into the season, we were a little bit concerned. No disrespect to the players, but with Kai Rolls and Ruan Tongic at the centre of defence, a little bit of concern around how they were going to go. Sitting in that position for the whole season, and that game that game showed fans that they had what it takes to be a centre back pairing for a successful side in the A-League. And we scored, the goals that we scored were sort of on the counter, just breaking away. And that was the thing as well. Our counter-attack last season was just such a key part of our game. And so many good goals came from the counter-attack. And, Alu Kuwal's second goal there to secure that second goal, that was a really... When we went 2-0 up there, it was, even though there was still a little bit of time left in the game, you had the feeling it's like, man, like we've got this. We're in control here. We've been defending for the entire game. We've grabbed 2 goals, and when we ended up keeping a clean sheet, a fantastic game. And again, great support from the Mariners fans heading down there to Jubilee. So that comes in at number 5 for me, just because of how it set the tone for how the rest of the season was going to pan out early on in the season there. Number 4 is the 2-0 home win to Western United, of course, which was the final regular season game for this season to secure our place in the finals. And of course, we were playing finals, but if you remember, towards the back end of that season, we were losing games here and there. We had lost just the previous game to Newcastle Jets, and that was a disappointing game. And then, it was important that we got a positive result heading into the finals. And I think we were confident we were going to do that against Western United, but there was a real sort of there was a vibe around the stadium. It's everyone knew obviously what was going on, and it would have been a great way to sort of build the excitement for the following week for the home final, to get a win there. And that late goal, I love that late goal. Jing Reese getting up the field. Of course, Jing Reese. It's crazy to think how he was sort of. He barely featured in the A-League side, and he's already secured his move overseas, but was involved in that build-up, and then Marco Renia finishing it off as well. So it's the thing for me with that game is that it was the cheer. It was like the roar of the fans at the full-time whistle was just like that. The vibe around the stadium then was something that we hadn't felt in ages. And same thing with the final. There was an atmosphere and there was an excitement amongst the fans. This wasn't just we're just going to another Mariners game. And obviously in previous seasons it's been a bit of a slog, and there hasn't necessarily been that much optimism around how we were going to go for a season or for a particular game. But this was different. This was different, and we haven't felt this way since 2012, 2013, 2014. So it's especially the fact that it's been that long too. You don't often see A-League sides sort of drop away from the finals for such a long period of time. Usually we see sides, will sort of drop down a bit and might bounce back after a few years. But we've been struggling for a long, long time, and to secure that final spot, that home final, was massive. And it obviously led to a great deal of optimism heading into that home final against MacArthur. Of course, that home final isn't going on the top 5 moments, even though it was an exciting time, that build up week for the final. Unfortunately, the game didn't go as we had hoped it would, but hopefully we revisit that feeling at the end of the 2021-22 season to secure hopefully another home final would be awesome. So just a great feeling around Central Coast Stadium, and to get it buzzing again and to get fans back in the stadium. That's all we really want, isn't it? Number 3 for me. Number 3 is a specific goal that was scored in a specific moment, and it's interesting because I've put it number 3, but for me personally, I don't remember celebrating a goal more vigorously. And I'm talking about Matthew Hatch's debut goal in the pink round against MacArthur FC at home. This was nuts, man. And I think people should be freaking out more about it. Like, he's a coasty lad. He was sort of in and around the squad. He was sort of on the bench here and there for some games. Wasn't really getting any play time in the first team squad. And this MacArthur game, he was thrown on late. We were already up 1-0, and he came on. I was like, oh, cool. Matt Hatch making an appearance. Good on him. Like, this is his debut. Yeah. And I was watching him, and it was interesting because I can't remember exactly what position he was playing. I think he was playing up front or something, or maybe in one of the wide positions. But we had a throw in. Sort of in the final third. And the ball sort of just came through to him, was passed through to him. I was like, oh my God, like Hatchie's in here. Like, he's got space. And he finished. And dude, I remember celebrating so hard in the stadium. And it was fun. It was funny because I was with a friend who is just like a casual Mariners fan. And I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my God, he's done it. And they were like so confused because they didn't know, like, obviously the context around the fact that he's never touched a ball in the A-League before. So to see... And I think it's the record for the fastest A-League goal on debut, right? It was just insane. It was just electric, and so good to see Matty Hatch, a player he's been involved in the youth system, and I reckon he'll be getting some more game time this year for sure. Especially obviously with Monty, knowing him well from the youth sides as well. It's he's a player who has a lot of potential, and showed glimpses here and there. Unfortunately, he didn't really get many other opportunities after that as well. Just the occasional substitute appearance, but man, what a moment. That was such an exciting moment for me. So at number 3, Matt Hatch's debut goal for the Mariners in that pink round game against MacArthur. Man, we're down to the number 2 now. And we're down to the top 2 now. And these top 2 games were games that were incredibly defined this season. And it's funnily enough, these are 2 games that sort of happened in sort of the first half of the season. The second half, overall, there wasn't too much. It was a bit of a grind. I don't know if you guys agree, but like the second half of the season, I reckon, was a bit of a grind. We weren't quite, we were struggling to win games there. I think there was a period of time where we only won one game in like six weeks or something. And there was even that sort of right at the end of the season where we had, I think it was 5 consecutive away games. And it was a bit rough for us during that time. So these 2 games come into the top 2 matches. The first half of the season. So the first one, we're going to talk about number 2, and we'll leave number 1 for last, of course. But it's the 2-1 home win to Adelaide United, which was in round 15, which was essentially the midpoint for the season. And this was the most pivotal game. And in my opinion, if we had lost this game, and this might be exaggerating, but we easily could have crumbled and dropped out of the finals race, for sure. This it was against Adelaide United, and it was at a time where both us and Adelaide, like, the winner was going to go top. The winner was going to go top, and winning this game would have really extended our lead at the top there. So it was a massive chance for Adelaide to sort of knock us off the top there. But it was a great chance for us to extend that lead on the top. And it was such a dramatic game. So just to sort of remind you of how it all went, we, of course, had the two penalties throughout the game. And the first one, Matty Simon, and it was Joe Gauci. Joe Gauci, a former Mariners product, was involved with the academy sides here at the Mariners a few years back. And, he had a great stint there with Adelaide before James Delinov had to come back in. So for him to pull off 2 penalty saves was amazing. But that first one, that Matty Simon penalty, and then the Ollie Bozanic penalty in the second half, and we just thought, what is going on? Like, this is nuts. It was so frustrating, and so much drama, and that made for an exciting sort of second half. And the Ollie Bozanic goal, that was that first one that we scored, and a fantastic goal as well. And we didn't see, Ollie was obviously very rarely on the score sheet, scored a couple of penalties, but apart from that, he was sort of more of the playmaker. He wasn't the one in the spotlight, which is one of Ollie's great qualities. He's not the kind of player to sort of hog the spotlight. He wants to set things up for the others. So, which is, what makes him such a great captain and a great leader as well. But fantastic goal. And I think it was with his right foot too, his weaker foot. So long range strike from outside the box. And then late on in the game, it was, oh man, I love this goal so much because it's so indicative of the Mariners' spirit. And it was the goal where Josh Nisbet, the ball was gone. Like the ball was going to go out of play for sure. Joshy Nisbet is a different player, is a different kind of player altogether. And that's why he's so exciting to watch. Manages to keep it in. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's like, oh my gosh, we're in here. Like we just have to tee it up, and when we take the lead, and we did exactly that. It was Alu Kual, of course, sprung to the opportunity, was there on the spot to tap it home. But so much of the plaudit has to go to Joshy Nisbet, who had the instincts to reclaim that ball and set up a chance for his team. And the celebration afterwards was great, of course. Always love the celebrations when they jump over the advertising boards and go celebrate with Base 16 because it's there's a great energy. And Base 16 really grew last year. It was so great to see so many numbers around Base 16 and the Yellow Army. So such a great moment and a great excitement. And because it was such a dramatic game, moments like that are always so euphoric. And it was interesting because, I looked back at the crowd attendance for that game, and I think it was only like 5,000, if even that, it might have been less. And it's in moments like that, it feels like 4 times that. It's the just the anticipation of the stadium, the fact that we'd missed those 2 penalties, and Joshy Nisbet, Ali Kual, 2 of these young players to combine and score that winner was absolutely amazing. So, of course, Alu no longer at the club, security's moved overseas, but, we just have to thank him for some of his electric moments. And without spoiling the first one, this isn't the last time we're going to be talking about Alu Kual. But it might as well be a good time to sort of touch on some of Alu Kual's sort of moments as well, maybe some honourable mentions from throughout the season. I do love the goal he scored away to Adelaide United, of course, that crazy 3-2 loss, which we will not talk about. That goal that Alu scored against Adelaide, where he took the shot and it hit the inside of the post and went in, was just awesome. He was such a fantastic player, such an exciting player to watch. And, obviously he was just limited to bench appearances, but that's where he was really used most effectively, in my opinion, coming off the bench there for either Simon or Arenya, and really made an impact in a lot of games throughout the season. And Joshy Nisbet as well, who, spent time playing, on the right-hand side a lot, and, did cover in the center of midfield as well. And, as I mentioned at last week's podcast, and Joshy Nisbet, it's going to be interesting to see where he plays this season, because I really did like him on that wide right role. So whether we see him there or, with Gianni gone now, maybe he'll be dropping back, or potentially if we do play with a number 10, I'd love to see Joshy Nisbet in a number 10 role. Just give him some freedom. That way you've got sort of the two sort of, you got the 2 sort of defensive midfielders sitting behind him to provide that sort of defensive stability, that block. A couple of wide players around him and a striker ahead of him, just to give him that freedom, just to sort of roam around. I reckon could be really, really dangerous. 2 just exciting players. So time to get on to number 1. And hope maybe you would have guessed it by now, but it is Alu Kual's brace against Western United at home in round 7. What a game and what a moment. And again, I've talked about the atmosphere of the stadium. And again, this was right up there with one of the moments of this season in terms of stadium atmosphere. But this was huge because, it was back and forth and Western United, were grabbing goals, obviously got their 2 goals, but, and we were down 2-1, and on comes Alu. And, we've seen a little bit of him, or in those opening few weeks. Obviously he scored the goal in the opening game against Newcastle. And this was the game for me where Alu really announced himself to the league, week 7 in the A-League. And, for him to make the impact that he did was incredible. And, that first goal from that corner, his aerial ability is just insane. Both goals scored with his head, but that first goal from the corner was just awesome because it was sort of came into the far post. And for him to sort of dip it in from that sort of angle and to get it to that far post was really impressive. And then the second goal, which was just absolutely magic, and probably it's not the best goal that we scored for the season, but in terms of impact and importance is probably number one for me. And it's the Dan Bouman cross, and Alu just getting into the space in between two of the central defenders there and heading it home perfectly. And it's the commentary that from the if you go back and watch the commentary as well, that Brenton Speed's great commentaries on it as well. And it's to come back like that, as I sort of touched on before, that's a game we would have lost last season, 100%. But when you have individual players like Alu Kowal, like Josh Nisbet, who are just different, who don't worry, who don't care about who they're playing, who they're facing, their opposition. They go out there and they perform for their team. And Alu Kowal changed the game for us. Without him, obviously with the fact that he scored those 2 goals, without him, it would have been a real struggle. And again, we just have to be thankful for the fact that we did manage to have him for a couple of seasons here at the Mariners, and we wish him all the best. But so many great memories for Alu Kowal. And after that game, I think he almost gained a bit of a cult following. And I remember seeing a lot of Instagram accounts sort of being created, like commemorating Alu and stuff, like Alu Kowal fan pages and all that sort of thing. So that's number one for me. It's Alu Kowal's brace against Western United. So would love to hear what you guys think of those moments, and also your favorite moment for the I keep forgetting to say 2021, it's always tricky. 2020-21 A-League season. Let me know in the YouTube comments, or there'll also be a post on the socials, on Instagram, Facebook, and all that, where you can drop your favorite moments for the 2021 A-League season. This is a great way to sort of get excited for the upcoming season, and hopefully we can create many more exciting moments in this season ahead. So much to go through, so much to talk about. Make sure you go and check it as well. It was great to revisit this, but on the official Mariners YouTube channel, all of the goals from last season, which was great to revisit, and some of those wonderful moments that we got to experience last season. And yeah, hopefully we'll experience many more for the upcoming campaign. But hey guys, thanks so much for checking out this episode of the Coast Watch Football Podcast. This podcast is happening every single week, and it's roughly half an hour episodes. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, the video episodes, full video episodes, and of course clips being released on all the social media pages as well. So if you want to be part of the Coast Watch, would love if you were to subscribe, whether that is on any of those podcast platforms or on YouTube, and keep an eye out, because there's some really cool content coming out, especially on YouTube. Would love for you guys to be a part of it. So thanks so much for your support, guys. Really, really do appreciate it. The season isn't too far away, only a couple months. We're so excited for it. So thanks for checking out the podcast, and I'll chat to you guys next Tuesday.